So we continue reading from Caitanya Caritamrita today, Adi-Lila, chapter 2, text 36. Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Prakrita prakrita shrishtiye yata jiva rupa taharye atma tumimula swarupa. All the living beings within the material and spiritual worlds are ultimately born of you, for you are the super soul of them all. So here Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, he is saying all living beings within the material and spiritual worlds are ultimately born of you. We read yesterday how the Katha Upanishad is saying that Nityo Nityanam Chetanas Chetananam. There is one eternal being who's maintaining all the other eternals. One eternal is maintaining all eternals. And he is within and without everything. As the super soul, he is within everything. And without, he has his own personal form. He has his own form. The cosmic manifestation is generated by the interaction of the three modes of material nature. The transcendental world has no such material modes, although it is nevertheless full of spiritual variegatedness. So in this material world, each of us is subject to the mode of goodness, passion, and ignorance. Rajogun, Tamogun, and Sattvagun. But in the spiritual world, there is no three modes of nature. Then there is the Sandhini, Samvit, and Hladini Shakti. Over there, we are under the influence and we can fully experience, we can experience to our own capacity the Sandhini, Samvit, and Hladini Shaktis. You know, those are the ones that are in the spiritual world. In the material world is goodness, passion, and ignorance. So eternal knowledge and bliss, that is what we experience in the spiritual world. In the material world, if we want to get happiness, we have an experience that we have to work to get happy. We have to do something so that we can experience happiness. It's not that we just sit down and we see, oh, I'm feeling so happy. Usually our experiences, we say, okay, let me go eat something, I'll feel happy. Let me go meet someone, I'll feel happy. Let me go here sightseeing, I'll feel happy. Let me go there, I'll feel happy. But in the spiritual world, and then in the material world, we do the thing, we experience some sort of happiness, but that happiness is temporary. It finishes. It gets over. And the happiness we feel is not to the full extent that we would like to feel it to. Sometimes it may be, but mostly it is, we still, oh, I could have still felt more happier. But in the spiritual world, the nature of the spiritual world is just by being there, we feel happy. We do not need to separately endeavor to become happy. You know, for example, we can have a slight blip, we can have a slight taste of that when we are engaging in devotional service. When we are hearing and chanting about the Lord, we feel a certain bliss. We do not endeavor separately to become happy, but just by engaging in bhakti, we experience happiness. Similarly, just by being in the spiritual world, we feel happy. Because that's what the spiritual world is all about. Sat, Chit, Ananda, eternal, full of knowledge and full of bliss. So in that spiritual world, there are also innumerable living entities who are eternally liberated souls engaged in transcendental loving service to Lord Krishna. So in the spiritual world, it's not that there is no one else there. There are many, many living entities. There are more living entities in the spiritual world than in the material world. And how many more? 3 times more. The material world is supposed to be 1/4, and spiritual world is 3/4. And those living entities are eternally liberated souls. They are not under the modes of material nature. They are situated in their true, original, permanent forms, their spiritual form. They don't need to be born, die, become old, or become diseased. No, they don't have fear. They don't have anxiety. And what are they doing? It's not that they are just sitting there and doing nothing. What are they doing? They're engaged in transcendental loving service to Lord Krishna. You know, and like how do we know? When we read the pastimes of Krishna, when we see his Braj pastimes, or his pastimes in Dwarka, or his pastimes in Mathura, you know, this is what the living entities over there are doing, having their loving relationship with Krishna. The conditioned souls who remain within the material cosmic creation are subjected to the threefold miseries and pangs of material nature. So this is how the spiritual world is Satchit Ananda, right? The material world has miseries, and it is what is that? It's full of miseries, and it's a temporary world. So Krishna says that in the Bhagavad Gita, I'm forgetting the term, that's the nature of this material world. So, and what are the threefold miseries? Anyone? Threefold miseries?
Adi, Devi, Gati, Bhautik, Adhyatmik.
Yes. And what do they signify?
We suffer from the body, from others, and from nature.
Yeah. So it's body and mind.
Is it the Ashashvatam?
Yeah, Dukhalayam Ashasvatam. Yes. Thank you. Yeah. Krishna describes the material world as Dukhalayam Ashasvatam. It's a temporary place, and it's full of miseries. Yeah. So we can see how it is totally different than the spiritual world. They exist in different species of life because they're eternally averse to transcendental loving devotion to the Supreme Lord. Now, the reason why we are here in the material world, and what happens in this material world, it's not that, okay, right now we are in the human body, doesn't mean the next life also we will be in the human body. We could be an animal, a bird, or a tree, or, you know, a reptile, depending on what Mother Nature is preparing for us, you know, based on our karma, based on our desire and our activity. Now, why are we here? Why are we here? Because we are eternally here. Eternally we are here. Since time immemorial we are here. Why? Because we are averse to devotion, transcendental loving devotion to the Supreme Lord. We do not want to engage in bhakti. We do not want to engage in hearing and chanting his glories. We say, why should I chant his glories? Everybody should chant my glories. Everyone should say, oh, how great I am. Why should I be saying that how great Krishna is? I should be saying, see how I control the situation, how I did this. And everybody should say that. And each of us is thinking that. Each of us, okay, just talking about human beings, 7 billion. 7 billion people are saying that, oh, you should sing my glories. And we are thinking that in our mind, you know. So then that's why we can understand why there is so much clash of ego here, so much havoc in the society. So this is the reason we are here. We say, why should I sing the glories of the Lord? Everyone should sing my glories. So Sankarshan is the original source of all living entities because they are all expansions of his marginal potency. Now, Sankarshan, he is an expansion of Balaramji. So Krishna first expands as Balaram, then Balaram, he expands in the Chaturvyuha, Sankarshan, Anirudh, Pradyumna, and Vasudev. Yeah. And so we, the living entities, we are parts and parcels of Krishna. right? We are coming from Krishna. So where are we actually coming from? Like, just to understand, which expansion are we coming from? We are coming from the expansion of Sankarshan. Sankarshan. Ultimately, we are all expansions of Krishna. Tiny, 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 tiny. So some of them are conditioned by material nature, whereas others are under the protection of the spiritual nature. So why are some conditioned by material nature and some under the protection of spiritual nature? Why? Why is this inequality? Anyone?
Because of our desires?
Yes, thank you. Thank you. That's right. There is no inequality. It's because of our own desire, our own choice, where we want to be. The material nature is a conditional manifestation of spiritual nature, just as smoke is a conditional stage of fire. So as we have been just reading, even we read in the Bhagavatam just now, that the spiritual nature is the reality and the material nature is a reflection. So here it is compared to smoke and fire. Smoke is dependent on fire, but in a blazing fire, there is no place for smoke. Smoke disturbs, but fire serves. The serving spirit of the residents of the transcendental world is displayed in 5 varieties of relationships with the Supreme Lord, who is the central enjoyer. So in the spiritual, if we have this serving spirit, we see over here in this world also, although we try to say, we want everyone to sing our glories, that I'm so great, but we can see that we are actually serving. We are working. It's not that we are not doing anything. We are serving our parents or our siblings or our spouses or our children or our bosses or our pets. We have seen how people serve their dogs over here, especially. And then, we are serving our society, country, nation. And if we say, okay, I'm not serving anyone else, we are serving our senses. The senses demand. The tongue demands, I want to taste this. Okay. Then we are serving, we are satisfied. We are serving our false ego. So that service is there. That is our Sanatan Dharma. Sanatan Dharma of a living entity is to serve. So the serving spirit in the spiritual world is correctly directed towards the enjoyment of Krishna or Krishna's pastimes. Let me also assist in Krishna's pastimes for his enjoyment. And in his enjoyment is my enjoyment. And so it's based on love. Because what is service? Like what is love? How do we know somebody loves somebody? Is when service is involved. If somebody says, the wife is saying, I love you, my husband, I love you. And whole day she's just sitting, I love you. And she didn't do any work. If suppose she's a housewife. And so husband comes home, hey, what's for dinner, honey? Oh, I didn't cook anything for you. Why? Because I love you so much. So I was thinking the whole day I was loving you. Are you love me? Then you please cook for me. No. Or why the children have not done homework. Oh, I was thinking whole day I was loving, how much I love you. So, but then that is not love then. In love, we serve, we try to make that other person happy. So that is what is in the spiritual world. And this service mode is in 5 relationships. Each of us has this in one of these 5 relationships. That's our original relationship, the 5 rasas. And what is that ras? The Shanta ras, neutrality, the Dasya ras as a servant, the Sakhya ras as a friend, the Vatsalya ras as a parent, and the Madhurya ras as a conjugal lover. So and the Dasya ras, it is there in all the rasas. It's there in all the rasas. Each of us has this eternal ras with Krishna. In the material world, everyone is a self-centered enjoyer of mundane happiness and distress. One considers himself the lord of everything and tries to enjoy the illusory energy. But he is not successful because he's not independent. But he is but a minute particle of the energy of Lord Shankarshan. So we are thinking, oh, I'm so great. Everyone should worship me. Look, I did this. I'm such a great person. I did it. But we are not able to understand that what we are able to do, we are not independently able to do. It's all being facilitated by this material energy, you know. And then, but we also get frustrated because there's so many other things we want to do, but we are not able to do that because we are not able to realize that I am not the Lord. I'm not the one who's controlling this situation. I am just, what is that? Minute particle of the energy of Lord Shankarshan. We are his marginal energy. All living beings exist under the control of the Supreme Lord, who is therefore called Narayana. So the Lord is the controller. We are just pretending to be the controllers. And because we are pretending to be the controllers, we act in certain ways. Oh, that I'm the controller, so let me do it. But we do not have that capacity. And so that's why we are baffled. We are frustrated. You know, what happened? I thought this is going to happen, but something else happened. How come? And each of us is thinking that. Each of us is thinking that I should control everyone around me and they should do perfectly as I want them to do. But the real controller is the Supreme Lord. Is that okay?
Yes.
Any questions or comments? So we'll stop here.
In awe and reverence. What is?
I'm sorry?
Just in a wondrous state that, wow.
Yeah, so this verse is actually very, very foundational. It speaks about so many different things, you know, that's why it took a little while to explain.
Yeah, because I never knew that the 5 rasas are a way of, like, definitely we serve, but in the spiritual world, that's the way to serve the Lord.
Yes.
Like how,
yeah. And then what happens is in Golok Vrindavan, in the Vaikuntha Lokas, where Lord Vishnu is the Lord, then there's awe and reverence. So it's more in the mood of neutrality or in the mood of dasya. So there is not much sakhya there or vatsalya or conjugal love. All this is there only in Golok Vrindavan. Only in Golok Vrindavan, where you can actually, like Sri Dham is playing with Krishna, you know, as a friend, or Mother Yashoda wants to bind Krishna and to chastise him. All that happens only in Vrindavan. Or the gopis, you know, the conjugal. Well, of course, Lakshmi Devi is there in the Vaikuntha Loka, but the other living entities, their relationship with Krishna is more in Dasya and in Shantaras. Yeah. So each of us has an eternal relationship in either of these 5 ras. You know, and that's our eternal relationship. That's our original, who we truly are. And that is what is self-realization. That's what we need to discover. And how do we do that? How do we do that? Not that somebody has to tell us, oh, you are this in the spiritual world or that. No, we chant. By chanting, by hearing, everything will be revealed. Everything will be revealed. So we'll stop here for today. And so this dasya, that mood of servitude is there. And it's very, very strongly ingrained in all the liberated living entities. That's their true, that is the true position. And because we do not want to be situated in that position, we are here in the material world. We do not like to be called servant. So we are here in this material world. And once we understand, oh, I'm actually an eternal servant of Krishna. Oh, I'm not the one who's a control. I'm an eternal servant of Krishna. Then liberation, path to liberation is open, very swift. Yeah, so we'll stop here for today. Shri Caitanya Caritamrita ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaura Premanande, Hari Hari Bol. Hare Krishna.